Thobe, and this is Justin. Today we're going to go over Justin's transition from working in nursing for many years to working in tech. He's been working with us here at Arbory for about a year now. Um, so, Justin, if you would go ahead and just give some of your background.
Yeah. So, like Hank said, background is actually in nursing. For 16 years, I worked in the medical field. I was a registered nurse. I did bedside nursing, travel nursing. I did interventional radiology for the last decade, which was procedurally based, one-to-one patient, and, doing a variety of different procedures for patients, and kind of being their guide through that day. So giving sedation and monitoring them throughout the procedure and assisting the doctors and rad techs and just, kind of doing a lot of different things. So always kept me very busy, and I like that. It's very interesting. But just ultimately got to a point it didn't line up with where I wanted to keep going directionally in my career and path. And so ended up making a career switch and got into the tech industry and software development, and found my way to Arbory and found a home. And I've just been kind of taking it as it's come for the last year and just trying to learn as much as possible and, not get overwhelmed, because you're going to get overwhelmed. It's natural. Everyone is. I don't know anybody that's come into this industry or field and said, "Oh, it's so it's just easy." I've never met anybody that just thought it was just tremendously simple.
Right.
So there's a presence that people are aware. There's a shared commonality, and I would say in the nursing field as well, or medicine, but in that arena and even in tech, we forget sometimes where we started, where we come from, the lack of knowledge that we sometimes begin with, and the growth that you can achieve over a year's time or decades of time. You're going to grow. If you're not, there's a real problem, right? If you're doing decades of the same job and you don't grow and you don't get any better or you don't develop, that's a problem. That growth will get incrementally less probably as longer you go, because there's going to be less gains, but nonetheless, there's still growth to be had even at the smallest gains. So,
Right.
I think that's one of the tough things though too, is coming from a background where I had an excessive amount of knowledge and historical use and troubleshooting techniques, to coming to a new field. You get that immediate, I just don't feel like I know what I'm doing type sense, that imposter syndrome that it creeps up really quickly, and
Yeah.
rightfully
How
so.
many years were you in nursing?
A total 16,
16.
16 total years.
Mhm. And just to take a step back a little bit, uh, is there any particular thing that made you want to switch to IT? Like, why choose IT over nursing?
Oh, that's a great question. Um, it's so funny too, because I feel terrible when I have my explanations, because and maybe that's why I was good at nursing as a career as well. But thinking rationally rather than emotionally, a lot of times I like to think about things rationally. And so when I looked at software, and I've kind of found over time of my job with Arbery as well, I'm equating nursing to software. I'm making allegorical transitions from when I'm looking at, an application, or I'm looking at whatever platform, what have you. I'm looking at that system in a different way, or how it's built in kind of an analogy of a human body of, well, if you have these different, systems going together, and this one interacts with this one this way, that's kind of like the lungs and heart interacting, or, I'm building those out in my mind because I think very visually too. So I have done that over the last year of trying to figure out how to develop that language for myself to really ingrain some of the concepts of what I'm learning as well.
But what makes you want to change, and why choose IT?
The desire for change was because I felt like where I was at in nursing, there was no real movement for me. I could become a nurse practitioner or a nurse anesthetist or what have you, but I didn't really want to do that. I liked working with people. It just didn't line up after a while. And I wanted something more creative. I wanted something more challenging. And there couldn't have been something more challenging than computers and software to me, because I used them very little prior to getting into them. I always kind of joke that I'm a glutton for punishment. I'm going to do something, I'm going to do a complete 180 in the other direction, because I'm curious. Once I started looking into it, I started to have more of a concept of, I could really do this. At first it seems like something that, to do this, you have to, have an IQ of 170 and, be a walking encyclopedia. And don't get me wrong, it doesn't hurt to have some of those characteristics, but, there's such a wide variety of careers in the tech industry as well. It's not just everybody's in their own little cubicle hammering out lines and lines and lines of code all day. Does that occur? Sure. But there's a wide variety of places where you can fit in the spectrum of tech and really find a niche that works for you. And, so far I haven't really explored too far, but I mean, what I've done in the short time I've been in the field, I've thoroughly enjoyed it. I still find that, at least from what we do as our work, mainly being a consulting company, we're still working with people, right? That's one of my biggest things. I'm still working with people, so I get to help people still. So I'm still getting that avenue fulfilled in my day-to-day, because it is still a strong driving factor of what makes me happy in a day is helping people.
I would say that comes out a lot in your work. Justin and I work pretty closely together. I work as a project manager, and you're technically a developer, right?
Yeah.
Is that your role? Yeah.
Well, engineer, developer, yeah.
Engineer, right. Yeah, maybe go into what your current role is and what your day-to-day looks like.
So currently, I am heading up a endeavor of kind of carving out a sysadmin space for the company that we are working for and consulting for, to really kind of strengthen up that portion of having that resource when you have a new hire come in, when you have somebody enter into the system. How do they go where they need to go? How do they get the resources that they need administered? And how do they, it sounds stupid, but you really want to welcome someone on. You do not want to just be like, throw them on deck and be like, figure it out. One, because that's going to leave them possibly not asking the right questions or even knowing what to, showing them the way a little bit. You don't have to hold their hand entirely, but you have to expose somebody to the right things that they need to do their job effectively and correctly. And so that is the effort that's going on currently, is, just trying to really make that a systematic approach that anyone could go into it if they have the right, privileges then, and they could, administer systems and tools and really lighten the load on some team members that are, kind of doing that task, but, handling two plates at once. And so trying to figure out how to really offload that for them.
Yeah. And I think the work we just really wrapped up is really going to make that easier for people coming on. Yeah, kind of in that same grain. So people switching careers, would you have any advice for anyone who's maybe thinking about switching from their current job into a more IT role or technology role?
And maybe I overthink it, but it's a tough one, because really coming from my background, I mean, it'd be kind of like if I was a mortician or a funeral director or something. It's just such a unique, weird, niche-y. It's not going from sales here to sales there, or engineering here to the engineering there, or real estate here to real estate. I don't know how to explain it. Like, one of my most happy thoughts about when I left the former profession I was in was, my day-to-day will never feel like work again, because the context of what I'm dealing with is so different. Dealing with software, yeah, things can go down. But, at the end of the day, if I need a day off, unless there's a real issue going on, we can always work on that the next day or something to that effect, right? In the hospital system, that work is continuously going on. You're never going to get a moment away from it. So um, one of the other big differences. But what would I tell somebody that's thinking about it? I thought about it this way. If I'm doing what I'm doing, and I think I stole this from Steve Jobs or somebody else that's way more intelligent than I am or driven, but it was kind of the concept of, if I'm doing what I'm doing and in 4 years I'm still doing it and I feel the same way I do now or worse, I will waste that 4 years. Like, I don't want to get 4 or 5 years down the line and have this thought. I don't want to run into this thought again in 5. So I was like, in 4 years down the line, am I going to be happy if I stay in this career? And the answer was no. And that was all it took. And then it was finding the avenue of how to get, into the software development, into the technology field. How do you go about that? And so I found that avenue and figured out what I was going to do, and really just buckled down and did what I needed to do to change careers at almost 40 and, decide to just give myself a real big challenge. I could have cruised. This is no joke. I could have done my job that I was doing blindfolded, earplugs, not hearing it. I could have done it, just so easy because it was so automated. What I couldn't do is I just really wasn't inspired by the environment I was in. I wasn't inspired by my team workers or my teammates. I wasn't inspired by management. I wasn't inspired by big business because, to be honest, that's what I have to say medicine has become. You can brand it as altruism and this and that, but it is a big business. And I hate to say that because it's a needed business. And now more than ever, because of people like myself, I think realizing, hey, I'm not being valued. This is an extremely difficult profession. I've had all kinds of just aha moments since I've left, because I truly believe I don't have to have the same mindset daily that I used to have to go in and deal with that type of day to day. So
how much of that do you think is like the fact that the hospital you work for is such a big company versus the actual work itself? Like the Arbory Digital company we're for now is, I would say, it has a lot of tech startup energy. We're up and coming, growing, lean, gives you a lot of opportunity to do a lot of different things.
Yeah.
Do you think that's the difference, or do you think it's the field, or is a combination of both?
I would say it's a combination of both for sure. Obviously I worked at a fairly major healthcare system, large, thousands and thousands of employees, what have you. And so it is the whole cog in the machine. And am I just a drop in the bucket? Definitely for the patients I worked with, did I affect their lives? I hope so, in a positive way. Coworkers that I worked with, I know for sure I affected in a positive way. But it was one of those, it was taxing, I didn't play the game the same way. I didn't want to go get another degree. I didn't want to, I wanted to be paid for doing a good job, having satisfied patients, doing good procedures, et cetera. And it was just a different environment like that. And, I just didn't want to kill my body anymore. It's a very physically demanding job. Like, it's rough. Yeah. I used to walk about 11, 12 miles a day inside the hospital without without leaving the building, without going outside, just floor to floor, patient room to patient room. So yeah, it was a driving factor of, I want to be able to, if I need to go to the doctor myself, I can take the day off. That's hard to do in the hospital system sometimes because they need you to work. So it's just, I think it got a little bit crazy, and I think there will be a correction to it here over the next 5 to 10 years. We'll see what happens with the healthcare system. And I mean,
Right.
funny enough, now that I'm in software, guess what? My healthcare background actually could serve me in this. There's a company in town that does, work with healthcare, and just the background knowledge, incorporated with software, might drive a lot of innovation in the future. I never thought that I would have anything that would translate out of medicine into tech. Obviously we use tech in medicine or did, but like I didn't imagine my job getting into a technical role would have any potential relationship to medicine as well.
Cross-pollinate those two. Yeah.
Yeah. Very interesting thought. Not that it has, don't get me wrong, but that potential is definitely real, and I think growing just because of the need, across every industry. We have Chipotle's that are going to start having the robots make the burrito bowls, and we have Donato's that are going to have robots making the pizzas, and it's coming. And the biggest problem is what are we going to do? Because we can do all that, we can automate all that, but you have a large workforce that can't. What do you got to figure out something, so it can't just have everybody not working and robots making everything. It's going to get interesting.
Yeah, I don't know if nurses are going away anytime soon.
No, but I could see where you'd be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised. I'm just saying, at the large scale of how things are going, right? At the macro level, I think it's getting more concerning that we're going to lean harder and harder on things like that just because we can't figure out how to compensate people to do the job.
Right. I was thinking as well, so when you were switching and you decided, okay, I want to do tech.
Yeah.
And like thinking of the path to get there.
Yeah.
As far as doing training or schooling, did you think about going to a 4-year school? I know you ended up choosing a boot camp. Like, walk me through that decision and what brought you to the boot camp.
Oh, yeah. That was actually a conversation that was broached by a coworker when I was actually at work one day, just kind of, I don't even know what I would do with my life, and I have no idea what I could do. It just, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've never been exposed to something, you would think, I can't do this. But I had a coworker. She relayed to me that she had a sibling who had done a boot camp program, 2 of them. And I think she may have done it by now. I'm not sure. But they had both done it. Her sister was college educated. I don't know if her brother was as well, but regardless, they both went through the program, became employed, got really good jobs. I think her sister got promoted or received a new job within like the first year after. I mean, it was going really well. And again, it just seemed like a challenging area that I had never really looked into just because I was kind of, I'm not going to lie, I mean, super intimidated. I think most people are, like, there's a great meme where the guy's on his computer and he's like looking at a bunch of people. He's like, I'm not hacking. This is not what I'm doing. I'm not hacking anything. He's like typing a couple of things and like, look, he's hacking. He's like the CLI, he's just doing. He's just doing like a simple command. And, yeah, they're like, oh, look, he's like a wizard, because it's very intimidating. A Carl Sagan quote that I always love is that we have a society built on science and technology, and we have a society that doesn't understand science and technology, right? So we're standing on the shoulders of giants every day using cell phones and laptops and all kinds of smart devices and leveraging all these technological advancements that we can't necessarily understand. And that started to kind of, I think, freak me out as I got older. And I was like, I want to now start to turn my attention that way. And I'm going to look into that, black hole that I've never really peered into really hard. And I'm going to see what I can figure out about it. And just about like with anything, the more you really understand it, that's when you get the comfort level and the scariness of it goes away. And don't get me wrong, it's still intimidating, of course, but now just like even the concept of like the cloud, when the cloud came out, what is the cloud? Like nobody could understand. It's like, it's just a term. It's a terminology for a new concept of how this paradigm is going to shift from you having, resources on your premises to it's just going to be, instead of storing your dollars in your, mattress at home, there's going to be a bank where you store your money, something to that effect, but those concepts are hard when they're first brought in. And, it's also an environment that grows so rapidly that, by the time I took hold on to it, I thought, I guess we'll see how it goes, because it's so rapidly advancing all the time. But again, you don't tackle the entire bowl at once. You have to take it piece by piece, and I think that's where I got a lot more comfortable, is just trying not to be like, oh, I need to know everything at once. You're never going to. If somebody tells you they know everything all at once, they're a liar. So just be aware of that as well.
Yeah. How do you feel the boot camp did in preparing you for your time here at Arbory?
Very well. I mean, that was outside of nursing school, which I know a lot of people that talk about going to nursing school as being one of the hardest experiences. That was no fun either. That was 2 years of really just nose in a book nonstop. My friends were like, "Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm in school. I need to buckle down." Same with my coding program. I mean, that was Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, 9 to 10, 9 to midnight, 9 to 1, whatever time I would get, tired enough to go to bed or could have my anxiety rest, because again, it was a compounding factor of, wasn't just going back to school. Again, it was just switching jobs. It was taking that giant career move. It was going away from the comfort of the retirement I had, and the knowledge base I had built up and everything, and just to really gamble all that. I think that stress level kicked up during that program. That made it a little bit more difficult, even sometimes, to try to sit and soak up the knowledge. But as far as preparing you for it, yeah, I mean, the amount of hours you spend hands-on actually coding, working on it, you're not doing nearly as much as the theoretical side, or even maybe the nuts and bolts of really getting down to the brass tacks of the components and parts of the systems, or the computers at large, or whatever you want to talk about. It's more of, we got into the object-oriented programming of it. How are we actually going about building some of these models inside of these systems, and how does that actually work from the front to back end, and how are those requests handled, and just understanding what a full stack developer was. I mean, again, jargonistically, just going through terminology was, a mountain of terms. But prep wise, I like to get that in a condensed time period. If I took a 4-year degree of it, would I've learned more of a broader concept? Sure. But to me, how ready are you to actually come out and get to work might take a little longer to really take that 4 years of concepts and put together, right? And I even think back to nursing I did 2 years of schooling. Yes, the schooling, I had to understand a lot about that, just because of the complexities of, interrelations of systems, at large, the anatomy and physiology, mental health, all kinds of things. But what I learned on the job, that's what I learned as nursing. And that's after 16 years. You would be like, I don't really understand how I know all of this. I didn't learn this in school. You're compounding day after day on the job, and
all that experience.
Yeah, even when I first became a nurse, I will never forget, I had a patient who was not doing well. Everybody that I worked with, every respiratory therapist, every other nurse, every other doctor and resident, and whoever, they would all come in and had the same response. They'd all walk in like, "Ooh, they don't look good." And I was like, "What do you mean? What? I don't understand, because I'm looking at them, quote unquote, the same way that you are, and I don't see them looking bad or sickly, or I don't get what you're seeing." And so that takes a while too, now that, even though I don't still do nursing, obviously, but I, I can walk past them. I'd be like, they do not look good. They might want to get, their liver enzymes checked, or they want, they might need this done, or they might be anemic, or it's just, you get that assessment ability built up so fast. That is what is slowly coming around with what is occurring with software, right?
Yeah.
And that's where my need to have the analogy system build up and have those relatables for me, to where I can look at things and have a picture in my head really quickly to have the story of what's going on.
And I'll say it's been impressive to see how fast you've picked it up. We did maybe 2 or 3 months of training when you first got on the team,
Yeah.
mostly AEM related, and then
Yeah.
put you on a job that had nothing to do with
Not a thing.
AEM.
not,
Well,
not anywhere, and not anywhere in there.
yeah. What was the first thing we had you do over there at your current client?
So we were working with oh, an APM Datadog, and we were basically going in and kind of just taking a look under the hood of what was going on, what their usage was, some of the dashboards and metrics and what those readouts were showing us, using those in coordination with events that were kicking off at certain times, whether that be a system failure or a update, or the Kubernetes didn't start the pods, a cold start, something going on, So we're using that to monitor the system, but we're also then we're looking at Datadog itself to try to get it righted, right, or corrected. Put some
Because there's a
things in
lot
order.
of like extra fields or a lot of additional costs being accrued that our customer wasn't um, using any of that data, right?
Yeah. Well, I think we even had like duplicate metrics and all these custom metrics, and we had a lot of add to this mic. Yeah, it's my mic on my headset. I don't know why it's doing it. Yeah, we had a lot of add to the spend that we did not need. And then it was just a matter of figuring out, how do you remedy that? But again, like you just said, our primary focus is AEM. I did a few months of studying that and then jumped onto a job that had nothing to do with that. And then our main focus became what we're talking about now, which was going in and really kind of like dialing back some of these metrics and ingestion and indexing of logs and RUM user data sessions. Just again, you can go and kind of turn on some of these systems, and they kind of are like a hydra or a Medusa. They have all these different snake heads that come off. You're like, what is it doing in the background, or what is it doing over there? Why is it gathering that, and how many terabytes? And you start seeing all this, and then we start picking it apart. And along with working with the company, really having that approach of, hey, this is what we're finding, this is what we recommend, here's what you guys have asked us to do. That's kind of fun to just
Sounds
do that
familiar.
investigation. Yeah, really dig down into the layers, and then, but mostly too is just some of the difficult part is just trying to get some of those things enacted, and kind of the dance and coordination of figuring out when can we get these effectively done. But yeah, that was our initial task that we started off with, and then from there it turned into kind of overhauling some of the dashboards, going in, just remediating some of the looks. It's tough to explain some of the charts and graphs, how they would come out, and how just to give a visual rather than just more of a numerical representation, or even some of those, just figuring out a way to best represent the data,
Right. Tell
to
those
give somebody,
stories.
yeah, and to give somebody a look at that. And so even that, you've asked me a couple of times, like, why get into this field? Creativity is overwhelmingly one of the biggest reasons. And I found that by and large, there's a lot of room for creativity
Right.
in
It's
what
like,
I'm doing.
here's some problem, Justin.
Go
You don't
fix
really
it
know how to
somehow.
solve it. Yeah. We don't really know where to start.
Yep.
See you in a couple of days. Let's know how it's going.
Yep. And I kind of appreciate that, because that is true creativity to me. It's not a
Mhm.
formulaic, algorithmic. That was one thing about medicine I can appreciate is, hey, you have a fever, you have a cold, you have a whatever it is. We have a lot of trees of thought of, then you need to take this medicine, this and this. A lot of it's really kind of figured out. And so, oh, well, if you have a mind like mine, where I have a great pattern recognition time after time, I'm going to see it 1,000 times, and then great. I will never have to really think about it again. I'm just going to know it. I don't know why I know it, but I just will know it. It's been that way with learning music, playing instruments, lyrics, movies, things like that. Anything like that, where if it's a repetitive nature and I can see it over and over, I will remember it, and it'll it just won't leave my mind. So that's where I'm really starting to see those gains again after, you know, a year now instead of a few months of giving myself an assessment. After a few months, I'm like, oh, I'm, I don't know anything after this month. Well, give it another couple days. But it's a slow, even in medicine, again, back to the whole, my first year of nursing, I didn't know what was going on. To be quite honest, I just didn't. You can't. You have not seen enough. You've not been exposed to enough. And so, yeah, I think that's going to serve me very well, is just almost living that first life, because I'm aware of what the second life will have, or the ebbs and flows. So hopefully I won't get as frustrated. Hopefully I'll know how to actually stay ahead of the curve, some of the time as well. Because it's, again, it's like you said a moment ago, a lot of this is just, we're figuring it out as we go, because there's not a ideal roadmap every time. It's like, well, do we do this? Do we that? And it's a lot of discussions, and it is a lot of trying to figure it out, But
and I will say it's certainly nice not to be completely on our own. We have a lot of experts around us too. Bryce,
right.
There's a lot of the way.
Oh yeah,
and jump in and get you on the right track when you're not so sure where to go. And
right.
honestly, the team at with our customer is excellent too. They've been super helpful.
Absolutely.
So we've talked a little bit about your past career, your transition into IT, current work in IT. I guess looking forward, like, where do you see this going? What are you looking forward to? What makes you nervous?
Wow, good question. I guess what makes me nervous, man, a lot of things. But in this avenue, what makes me nervous about the field or my career, or what would you say?
Yeah, I would say maybe nervous is the right word. What are you excited for? I feel like those two are closely related.
They're close, yeah. I'm excited just to always see what's coming down the pipe, even with regards to what we're doing now for our main focus. Obviously we can shift on a dime. It can go from, this is all I'm working on, to now you're doing this. It can go from signing on the first statement of work to now, again, working as a sysadmin. Didn't have that in my crystal ball purview, but again, having that, I think it's a unique thing, though. You have to have the ability to be okay with that. And even a person such as myself who likes change, who openly will say, I do like change. I love to travel. I like to be in new places. It was shocking to me the first couple of times when I was like, hey, I'm just getting a little traction on this. I can't change my focus right now. And it's like, I don't care what your focus is. What we are focused on needs to change, because our customer's focus says we need to change. That's right. Cool. It does take a little bit, though, to kind of, because being a little bit more historically task-based oriented, like, you need to do this, finish to completion. You're doing a procedure. You don't stop mid-procedure and start another procedure. There are some of those that now I'm, it's interesting. Like I said, even thinking, oh, I'm a person that likes to, do a lot of different things or what have you. I found myself getting a little irritated, like, I was almost done, like, figuring this out. Like, it felt like it was a game, like you guys were testing me to see if I can handle it.
That out, Justin. Got 10 more things over here, completely different. That's the nature of the beast, man. That's why people bring us in to come solve little random problems. If companies didn't have issues, we wouldn't have jobs. So
no, that's some of the stuff I'm excited about, is just the potential for what's coming down the road, what potential work we will have come across our plates. But also, again, like I said earlier, it's just the spectrum of careers and avenues within this space. Obviously, I'm somebody that talks a lot. I like to talk. Which is very interesting in a job where I don't have any coworkers and I'm in a room, and, I can bring my dog to work, but he's not very interested in what I say. But, I'm a talker. I actually ran into a former classmate, and she is a product owner now. And I went, I didn't know you did software and development and this and that. Oh, well, I don't. I was like, so how did you get into it? And yada yada. So we got down to this conversation. So that was something an interesting, being a product owner, or you can go and kind of be these liaisons. And I see myself somewhere down the road having that kind of skill set where, yes, I understand the technological side of it and software side of it, very, very high level, and in some very granular as well. I definitely want to be able to go in and out of certain things and have that acumen as well. But I think kind of being that relational avenue for someone that has no idea about tech in general and what they're asking for and the requirements they really can't formulate to a dev team, and vice versa. The dev team doesn't want to or can't really talk to the client. I would could envision myself having a career or path in that, of really being that conduit, and just making everything easy from one side to the other, and just kind of being that grease on the wheels. Because again, that was kind of where I feel like my position as being a nurse was, in between the patient and the physician, was kind of keeping everybody happy, even my coworkers, but keeping everybody happy, but knowing how to make that all dance together. It wasn't necessarily that I liked all my coworkers any more than they liked, me. It's just that I just I didn't want to have a bad day at work. So why do let's just get along and get work done. Like, I don't understand. So
I think that professionalism definitely shows up over here in the IT world.
Oh, okay. Perfect. Even better.
And your ability to translate between the two is already, I guess, shown through and helped us out in a lot of situations. So
excellent. Yeah. That's the goal. That's the goal. To be a benefit and not a hindrance. And like I said, in the hospital system, I knew I was good at it. That was the thing. And
it's hard to step away from something you're good at.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, again, it was just like I could stand on my head and do this forever, and not just do a good procedure. That's not what I'm saying. Again, I really liked people. So when you came in, it wasn't, I remember a lot of patients still, like, just because of the interaction wasn't just a normal interaction. So even with our customers now currently, like, that I'll remember them. Like, it's not going to just drift away real quickly. So, I think it's just a different mindset, and just, again, like, maybe it was just, kind of how I grew up, just in a small environment. I knew everybody. And so I'm very used to knowing people and, being very, communal, just, hey, how you doing? I'll know everybody's name in my building down here at my office. There's a new coffee barista shop that just opened up. I just met them today. So, that's kind of how I infuse myself too. But it's because I do want people to feel comfortable, and I do want them to be able to have open lines of communication, and especially now, if I'm doing this role with systems admin, I want people to be able to come to me if they need something, or they have questions, or they can't log in, or, hey, I gave you access to all these, Jenkins, Braze, Punch, whatever, but maybe you don't tell me you can't get into it. Maybe you haven't logged in, or, we're thinking we're working collaboratively on something, but you just don't say anything because you don't feel comfortable. So I do it a lot of times to really just kind of set that tone of, obviously it's a place to talk where I'm talking the most out of anybody. You're welcome to speak. Yeah.
Stuff, Justin.
Yeah.
You're a man of the people, I would say.
I appreciate that.
Any final thoughts on your transition from nursing to IT?
I think my final thoughts would just to be, with this next year, I just, keep measuring in those increments, is to just get better than I was last year, kick the imposter syndrome even more than I did last year. Keep taking on new challenges. And I think I have, and just enjoy it, because I find when I take the pressure off myself of thinking I've got to, tackle everything all at once, or what have you, that I can digest a little bit better. I can retain more. And ultimately, when I look back on it, we're doing we're doing, or I think we've done great in the last year so far, at least from my perspective. So I'm pretty thrilled.
Agreed. And I look forward to continuing to work with you. And
Absolutely.
thanks for your time on this. It's been an awesome conversation.
No problem. Appreciate it.
Yep. Thanks.